All right, Bulls and Bears back with another dose, folks. Economic reality, the longest government shutdown of all time is over. The cost of living still rising. The shutdown didn't stop that, did it? It did have a few people begging for money, a lot of people going to food banks, wondering where they were going to get their next rent check from. Well, luckily, the reopening is here. So we got out of November without a major catastrophe. And we said right here on this channel, anyone in power right now, the quote-unquote leaders, the powers that be, they would have to be insane to let this shutdown carry on for too much longer, because they would get the blame for the economic fallout that would occur. Now, we already saw a lot of fallout. We saw all these people at food lines. And if this would have lasted, I think, another 30 days, I think so many food banks would have ran out of food. It would have been a nightmare, folks, because that's how many people were in these lines. And we showed you the videos here of the ones that were waiting in line for hours. The food ran out. It was pretty sad to actually watch. But yeah, we said the shutdown wouldn't end. It's ended. All right. But today, let's get into some news, and we're going to hear from a few people here in just a few minutes on what's happening with them in the economy. I happen to be doing okay. I'm concerned about especially the younger generations, even my kids. The good old days where if you worked hard, you could buy a home. If you worked hard back even before 2000, right? Back in the 90s. If you worked hard, even in the early 2000s, after the housing bubble went bust, for a few years, if you worked hard, you could get a home at that time. 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. Prices started getting up to where they were before the housing bubble went bust, the 2008-9 housing bust. Prices got back up to that level about 2018, 2019, maybe late 2017. We started talking about it at that time, but they've just kept the bubbles inflated, right? What happened back then with the banks is not happening now, right? So banks are still giving out loans, even though delinquencies for car loans just reached an all-time high. Now, before it was just subprime. Now it's the total delinquencies are at an all-time high. Way back 30, 40 years ago, even before they kept records, we're at an all-time high right now. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes here. But it used to be, if you worked hard, you would be able to get a home. It's not like that anymore. You could work hard, you could save, and you still might be just renting your whole life. You might not really ever own much. You might not have a nice retirement. You might still be working when you're retired, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, the way things are going in this economy, right? So let's talk about that. Let's start right here. And this is one of the traps we talk about on this channel, student loan debt. Take a listen.
Years ago, I made a decision that completely ruined my life, and I know I'm going to get so much hate and criticism for posting this video, but if my person, I will take all the hate and criticism. If you're starting college this year, if you're currently getting your college degree, or if you are a parent or know someone who's a college student, please just listen for the next 2 to 3 minutes. My name is Bradley. I went to culinary school and had no idea in the time I was getting my degree that I was completely ruining my life. Not knowing better, I went to the best of the best school thinking I would get the best of the best outcome. A week before graduating, the school sat me down and said, "Congratulations, you're about to finish your degree. You're now in $137,000 of student loan debt." My monthly payment before any government programs was about $1,400.
Did his school really say that? Congratulations, you're in 100. Sounds like sarcasm there. Congratulations, you're in 137,000 in debt.
Month. I realized in that moment I had completely ruined my life. What made my story go from bad to worse is that once I got into the industry with my degree, I was getting job offers for $12 to $14 an hour. From that moment on, my life completely spiraled. My mental health was completely destroyed. I developed a drinking problem. It got so bad at one point I ended up in the hospital because I had no idea how to cope with the stress that I was under. The worst part of all of it was that I was 21 years old, drowning in debt, not making a lot of money with my degree, and I had to turn to adult work, if you know what I mean by adult work. It is so unfair that I thought I was doing the right thing for myself by getting a college education, by getting a college degree, by doing what everyone told me I should do, by doing what society told me I should do, only to then ruin my life and having to turn to adult work to survive. Because I was only able to just get by with the money I was making with my college degree, and my student loan payments were half my monthly income. Instead of blaming the teenager, you should really start blaming the colleges who are allowing these situations to happen. And parents, this is where I'm calling you out. It is your responsibility to protect your child from ending up in $80, $100, $150,000 of student loan debt. It is not up to high school guidance counselors. It is not up to the university to protect your child from ending up in a financial disaster like I did. This is not me saying a higher education is not important, but this is me saying an expensive, overpriced higher education is not important. And if you just think it's my story, if you just think it's me, if you don't think it could happen to you, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who share the same story that I've shared. I beg you, 4 years of fun and getting the college experience is not worth drowning in debt for the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life. If I could go back in time as a senior in high school, knowing then what I know now, I would not have went to college right after high school. I would have graduated high school, gotten a normal job, and allowed myself to grow up. Allow myself to get to know myself, allow myself to learn how money works. Because I'm sure if I started college later in life and I learned the value of $1, there's no way I would have allowed myself to go to a college that was $30,000 to $40,000 a year. You are not a loser if you take a gap year. You are not a failure if you go to community college. You're not a nobody if you want to completely avoid getting a college degree. There are so many people and so many stories today of people who are thriving and doing amazing without going to college. If you think you want to go to college and you want to get your degree, I fully support it. But please do it as affordably as possible, and please know what you are doing. I'm telling you what I wish someone told me, and I don't want you to have to go through what I went through.
Wow, good advice, folks. I mean, what do you think about what he said? $137,000 in debt, and he was making $13, $14 an hour, and then you still have to pay for housing and everything else. You might not even be able to make that loan payment at all. It's very wise choice. Now, there are some occupations where, let's say you're a doctor, you're making $120,000, $150,000 a year, you could pay off $100,000 in debt. Doctors are probably going to have even more college loan debt, though, compared to like somebody in culinary school. But you get the point. Some occupations, you can pay off the debt. You're making money. But like he said, a lot of teenagers, they're not thinking about these things. They're just doing what they're told, or they're doing what society is telling them to do, right? Go to college, right? You got to go to college, right? Not always. No, I know plenty of people that are doing very well. No college degree. It's about, a lot of it is luck, but it's about the industry that you get into, who you know, that's a big part of it, your personality, right? So many different aspects to your career, right? It's not just your career path, because if you have a terrible work ethic, you could have the best career path in the world, but it's not going to be good if you're just a bad person, impolite, not a good business person. You know what I mean? But take a listen to this as well.
I honestly have no idea what to do anymore. I'm sitting here. It's almost midnight. I've been scrolling for hours, just looking for jobs, like extra jobs. I work 2 jobs right now, and I feel like I can't even afford, what I'm trying to pay for. My rent's so expensive. I go to the grocery store today. I get bread, peanut butter, jelly, and milk, and it comes out to almost $18. $18 for sandwich ingredients without any protein and milk. I mean, my phone bill's expensive, gas is expensive, and I'm just like, man, I'm a 28-year-old. I'm out here in Oregon, and I honestly don't even know what to do. Something needs to change. Something must change very, very fast, or I honestly, I don't know if I'll be able to survive this. I've talked to many people. They're in the same boat. So I want to use this page as a place for people to come support each other and just, hopefully get through this together, because I know it's not just me. We're in this together. It's going to be okay. But we really got to ride this out together.
Folks, I'm seeing so many videos just like him. People, especially people in their 20s and 30s. Video of a 32-year-old that I just watched before I started recording, and he was cussing a lot, so I'm not going to play all the cursing on here because I didn't have to go back and edit it. It takes a while. But he was like similar to the other guy we heard from. College loan debt. He thought things were going to be different. He thought life was going to be different, just life in general. He never thought the cost of living would go up like it did and not come down. He was under the impression that bubbles have to burst, right? The housing bubble has to burst. Prices go up, then what goes up must come down, right? Well, we've learned on this channel that if they keep doing what inflated the bubble may not burst. And that's not just with housing, that's with anything. The cost of living just in general, everywhere you look. If they're just throwing helicopter money into the economy, printing press, on overdrive, prices won't come down, folks. And that's the scary part of it. So we almost need some sort of banking crisis 2.0 to bring down the cost of living, because this is driven on borrowed money. The entire economy is run on borrowed money. You all should know that if you've been on this channel even for a short amount of time. The backbone of the economy is spending, and mostly it's spending money that people don't have, aka credit cards, borrowed money, and loans, bidding up prices. Take a listen to this breakdown of what's happening.
When I was growing up, Rick, a family could afford a home.
Right.
And I mean literally, if it was, 2-income household, you could buy a home.
Right.
If you made a certain amount of money a year, you could still buy. And now when you look at homes now, we are extremely priced out.
Oh, it's terrible. The younger people starting out, if there's one thing I would do, whether it's governor or the mayor, I would tackle the cost of living. And there's ways to do it, easy ways to do it. And we got to make it a priority, because you can't grow businesses where people can't afford to live. And you can't sustain businesses if people have to drive 2 hours to work and 2 hours home. And you can solve that. I mean, one of the things that we're doing as a company, next to our hotel, we're building low-income workforce housing for our employees. I'm so proud of that. Every company in the United States, and certainly in California, should be incentivized to do that. I'm not asking for any federal funding, state funding, city funding. We're getting no funding for doing it. It's the right thing to do because we prioritize the quality of life of our employees.
Affordable housing for his employees. Nice idea. Some companies are doing that. Even some schools. Some schools are prioritizing housing for teachers, because so many teachers had to commute an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours because they couldn't afford to live in the area that they worked, right? But you heard him say somebody needs to tackle the cost of living. Here's why I think the cost of living is not being brought down or tackled or handled, whatever you want to call it. Because when the cost of living comes down, that means people stopped spending money, or there's a big pullback in spending. For there to be a big pullback in spending, that's a big lifestyle change, especially in the U.S., in America here. People are so used to buying what they want, getting it now, or buying it and getting it 2-day shipping, taking whatever vacation they want without worrying about it because they have credit, and they can just keep going further in debt. When that ends, folks, that's going to be a major shift, and you're going to see a lot of angry people, and the numbers are going to look terrible, because remember, economic growth is gauged on how much debt people are taking. In other words, how much money people are spending. And remember, most of the debt you see accumulated is borrowed money, just added to people's balances, their debt balances, right? So that's what it is, folks. He was talking about, was it Rick Caruso, talking about how we need to tackle this, how they need to fix the cost of living. That's why they're not fixing it, folks. So be ready, folks. We're going to see you in the next report. Please make sure you're subscribed. See you next time. See you down in the comments, too. Let me know what you think about this. Bye for now. Peace.